Have you ever started something new and wondered, are you learning from the right teacher? Enjoy this episode to find out if you are doing all the right things to make the most out of your learning experience. Hello, my beautiful, gorgeous dance baby, and welcome to another episode of More Than Dance. Today, we are talking about teachers, more specifically, great teachers, and how to align yourself with one so that you can have the best learning experience for whatever you're learning. In this case, dance. Now, today I had a firsthand experience with being a student and having a teacher, and I really got a chance to put myself in your position, which is actually the reason why I am doing this. I like to be able to open myself up, to put myself in the beginner mindset and allow myself to see and feel what goes on. Now, we haven't talked about this in great detail yet, though I have mentioned it before. I often sometimes tell my students when they enter that they're about to hop on the dance roller coaster. And the dance roller coaster has a bunch of twists and turns, and you come in and you think it's going to be one way, and then you go down and through and upside down, and you come out and you kind of have that like reaction. Now, when we're beginners, we sign up for this. We're telling ourselves, this is gonna be a great idea. And it really truly is, because the only way to get where you wanna go with the skill that you're learning, again, in this case, dance, is to go through the roller coaster. And while you're on the roller coaster, you really want the most supportive, loving, friendly, encouraging people around you. There's a lot of things that I do to support my students when they're on their dance journey. And all of the things are to help and encourage my students with the learning process. We've touched on this before. The learning process is rough. It feels not quite like you want it to, and there's question marks. I just picture this like image of like a person and then just like question marks going do 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 with those little like bubbly noises, because I know that my students come in and they want to learn it so bad. It just doesn't feel good sometimes to learn. So today I am learning this new skill and I'm realizing I don't understand it. I don't get it. I am so lost with the orientation and the setup, the why. And I have to say that the teacher that I have right now for this current skill wasn't meshing with me at the moment. And this isn't the first offense. This has been maybe the fifth or sixth time that I can remember and re-feel, because when you're in the process of learning, you're in a vulnerable state and it doesn't feel good to not know, and it doesn't feel good to ask questions that you know that were already answered. Anyway, the only way forward is through. So you kind of have to just be like, well, I still have the question and I realize that you've already answered it, and here we go. I'm asking it again because I really want to get it. I deep down just really want to have the understanding. So not only do I never have to ask you again so that I can explain it to anyone I ever want to show it to. And I think that's like the teacher in me, like wanting to be able to know it so well that I could teach it, understand it so well that I could do it over and over again with little to no mistakes. So I'm sitting there and I'm asking this question, I'm clarifying, I'm understanding, and I was met back with sarcasm, rudeness, like the kind of quality that would make you say like, well, why are you teaching this to people? Like, why are you even bothering? Like, do you enjoy teaching? Because maybe you should show that. And because this was like the sixth offense, I had gone in with the preparation of being like, okay, if this behavior happens again, I am going to definitely say something, because I think it's really important sometimes to like understand it's not funny. And I guess I'm very sensitive to that, because not only did I grow up teaching, but I also went to school for teaching. I got my degree in elementary special education, and I've owned the studio now for 14 years. So you could say that teaching is my life. So I'm like, well, how would I handle this? And would I want to know? And I would want to know if I was like hurting any of my students with my words or my clarification. So I would want to know, even though it would be a tough conversation. So I was like at my last string, and I just said something like, are you trying to be mean? Like when you answer. And then of course that led to tears. And I think I get so upset about this because when I have a new student, I just want them to have the best experience ever. And I want them to know that like, it is hard. It is a vulnerable thing. And I want to meet those feelings with compassion. And I think once I did express myself and say, like, this is what's been going on, and like, you've done this many times, it doesn't feel good. Like, do you not want to teach me? And she was just like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to like meet you with sarcasm. And she knew what she was doing. And I feel even bad like discussing this right now because like, I'm not trying to call her out because I can see value in teachers. Like, I have such an admiration for the wealth of knowledge that teachers have. I just think it's like so cool to be able to learn from a pro in what they do. And in my case, I do consider myself a pro at what I do, not only with dance, but also with teaching. And so I'm here to share with you some things to look out for when you're experiencing a learning process. And then also, if you are a dance teacher and you're listening to this could be really helpful for you and your community. And then 3, if you're not a dancer, but you are learning a skill, just other things that can connect as they always do, because dance is life and life is dance. And the other reason is because everyone has a good fit. I mean, I'm sure you can rewind back to some of your years and you just had a teacher that got you and you clicked with them and they understood you and they were able, I mean, that's the mark of a great teacher. A teacher is supposed to challenge you too. And I think that's the other half of this. Was I being sensitive? I don't think so. I really don't. I did a lot of reflection on it already, and I don't think I was being sensitive, especially because I gave like multiple chances for that behavior to like not happen or simmer down in the case of like a bad day or traffic in the morning or whatever the case was. And I'm aware of this because I'm like this with my students. Like, I like to challenge them, and there's a way to do it. And the first way is to make sure that the environment is safe. So one of the things that I like to do for my students is I let them know that the dance studio is their home for the next couple hours. It's their home every time that they step into the studio. And they know that because I'm greeting them, I'm saying hello to them, I'm making sure that they know where to put their belongings. They know the orientation of the studio space. We get a chance to do circle time where we share our names, our intentions. So I'm already on board knowing exactly what my students are working on that day. I know what they want to get out of class, and I know exactly how they want to leave feeling. The key is to create an environment where someone can continually make mistakes, which is so funny because you'd think like there's probably not a lot of that in your day. We usually want to limit mistakes. But when you're learning, you want the mistakes to come out quick because then you know how to react to them. You know how to handle them. So for instance, if you mess up alignment, let's say, I can say, oh, like put your arm here. Well, you got to make that mistake. So now you can fix that mistake. So have you ever heard that saying? It's something like fail fast and fail often. It's supposed to get you more quickly to your goals. So to have a space where those mistakes can happen here, there, and everywhere is actually really a comforting feeling. Think about when you're with a friend and you've gotten to the point in your friendship where you can just kind of like mess around, or you can say something and like they understand you so well that you can go and say however you want to say it in whatever way that you want to, that they're like, I get what you're saying, versus thinking the worst of you when you say that thing. So this is what happens when you step into the dance studio. Yay, you're about to make a bunch of mistakes. Get excited. You want to also feel like your questions are not annoying. The way that we do this is there's a time and a place for questions at the studio, and you know when it is because I ask you, do you have any questions on this? And I always like to leave room for that and extra time because sometimes the question isn't sorted. Now, we have a beautiful podcast, episode 25, how to ask better questions to become a better dancer. And sometimes your question might not be formulated. And this podcast will definitely help you formulate your questions. Though I know things are brewing and they're stewing, especially in dance, because when we're learning choreography, not only are we learning the order of the movements, but we're sometimes learning the exact movements and the placements of the arms and the weight transfers, and everything can get a little heavy. It's a lot of information at once. So I'll be throwing material at my students and then I'll stop and say, do we have questions on this? And then I wait. And I want to make sure that I wait because if that person is in the middle of formulating, at least they have enough time to be like, and then they can say something. If they don't have their question formulated, it can be like this part. usually I'll know exactly what their question is because I've been watching them. And because our studio is a boutique studio, we have classes with smaller numbers. So I'm able to really pay attention to my students. If you have a class where it's like, 50 plus people, you might not be able to answer everyone's questions. And also you might not be able to know exactly what they're about to ask before they ask it. And that's okay. So number one, making sure that space feels comforting and safe. And if you're the dancer in this, you want to be able to feel that. And if you're the teacher in this scenario, then you want to be able to provide that. The next thing that makes an amazing teacher is a teacher will always name the language, and then they will also say what that means. For example, in our strut intro class, we start with our positions, and they're heels positions. So they're like kind of like a riff off of ballet, but they're not quite ballet because our positioning is different. And we'll say what the positions are, and then we'll show, and then we'll talk about our arm placements, and then we'll talk about certain moves, and certain moves have names. So it's a way that the students are learning exactly what the vocabulary is in the realm of dance. Like if you're learning an instrument, you know that the thing that you move back and forth is the bow, and the other thing, I haven't really taken a lesson in that, so I'm not really sure what the other thing is called, but there's a name for it. Same with dance. I like to use imagery, and I like for my students to feel like they're able to understand each thing that I'm talking about from their learning style. Now, I understand that that's a little advanced for a teacher because it involves you knowing everyone's learning style. And I have the benefit of understanding learning styles from when I went to college for teaching, and we understood this. This is just something that we got to know, and I use it all the time when I'm thinking about every person that I'm teaching. For you as the learner, you get to know that too. So if you know how you learn best, now you know you can ask questions based off of that. I always tell my students that you think you're signing up to learn dance when really you're signing up to learn how to learn dance, because that's a skill in itself. So knowing exactly how you learn is going to lead to the questions that you're going to ask, and that's going to lead to your understanding. And when you understand better, you can dance better. I always love also to just give my students their tools and then take them away. So for example, the mirror, it's a tool. We face the mirror when we learn, and we understand, okay, that's my reflection. I understand body awareness. I understand the way and the relationship from myself to the audience. And as soon as we take that away, we do that on purpose. We tell them to face a different direction, tell them to face the back, tell them to face the side where the mirror is not. And that's how they know, whoa, is that movement in my body, or have I just been copying around? Have I gotten a chance to feel what that feels like? Or am I relying so much on the mirror to make my movements happen? When you take the mirror away, you're able to feel what it feels like. You're able to understand your relationship from your right arm to the audience, your left arm to the audience, the person on the right of you. You get a spatial awareness. That's really cool. Another tool that I'll take away is myself. So I'm standing there, I'm teaching them, working with them. They can copy me. They can follow my lead with timing. And then when I go away, that's one of the tools I gave them, and I take it away. And then we see, where are we? What did you need? What were you relying on me for? It's actually a great tool for them, and it's actually great for me too, because now I get a chance to see what they need more help with. They get a chance to be like, oh, as soon as you went away, that part was more confusing. One of the great things that you can do as a dance learner is understand what your body capabilities are. As we age, here we are, we are dancing until we're 90, 100, and our bodies are changing constantly. And actually from hour to hour sometimes, like earlier this morning, like my bum wasn't hurting, but now it is. I like twisted it some like weird way. So tonight, maybe it won't, maybe it will, but I'll be able to adjust myself. I will know how to do it because I've been doing this, but I like when my students know how to do that. And the only way to do that is to show and tell. Back when we were learning how to teach, we had 3 main sections of teaching. One was the talk aloud. It was the direct instruction. It was when you would say, I'm doing this and here's why. And you would explain your thinking process out loud so that the student could understand, oh, if I'm having a thought like that, then I could do this. For example, if I was teaching you how to undercut, I would say this out loud while I'm teaching my students. I would say, okay, I'm going to stand right here. This is my spot. And as I'm going through and I'm doing movements, I'm going to be making sure that I maintain this exact position. Let's say that I'm doing the move, and it's a little hard right now to explain to you because I would like for you to see what I'm doing. So I would say, as I move my leg over here, I notice that I got a little bit off center to the left. What I'm going to do is utilize my hands to press into the floor to bring myself slightly over to the right so that the next time that I roll that leg over and get back to my knees, I'll be exactly in the center. So it'd be something like that. And I know that's so confusing to hear right now through what you're listening, and just know that it's the directions out loud. So if you were making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you would say, I'm taking these pieces of bread out because I know I want to have 2 pieces of bread. I'm going to get 1 knife for the peanut butter and I'm going to get 1 knife for the jelly because I don't like to mix and match. I'm going to unscrew this and put this down and unscrew the other one and put it down just so that I can make sure that my hands, if they get messy, I don't have to worry about getting the jars all messy too. I'm going to take this knife, I'm going to put it inside and grab out as much peanut butter as I want. I like to get a lot more than I need when I first go in because I want to make sure that I have enough peanut butter on my knife to get it on the bread. So then I put it on and I would show them and I would be like, okay, and this is how much peanut butter I'm putting on. See how I have extra? I can just wipe that back into the jar. Which is probably not what you're supposed to do, but that's how I do it. And now I'm going to use my other knife because now we don't have cross-contamination between the peanut butter and the jelly. And now I'm going to put this on the other piece of bread. So you would explain it as you were doing it. That way the person gets the exact example with words. So now if they're a auditory learner, they're going to be able to hear everything you're saying while seeing everything you're doing. The next section is where we have guided learning. And this is exactly where the bulk of dance is. It's guided learning, and we're doing this and we're doing it together. So this would be the time in the classroom where you would be doing your work, but the teacher would be doing it with you. So it's like, we're going to go on to number 1. Everyone see number 1? Go ahead and you could do it a bunch of different ways. But in the school format, it'd be like, we're going to spell the word whatever. I'm just trying to think of like a really like easy way to explain this like via podcast. But it's basically when you're explaining something and you're like, okay, maybe I'm going to call on you. And okay, I see that you got that. And then we say something like, oh, does everyone understand how blank blank got that? And then we'd be like, oh, okay. And then we would do it out together. This is how we do it. Or I could even do it first before I even call on somebody. The important thing to know is that's just one part of the instruction. Then we go into, in the school format, we go into independent learning, and you would be off on your own doing it. Dance is kind of like we're guided, and then we're less guided, and then we're a little less guided, and then we're independent at the end for showcase. And even then we're a little guided because I'm always marking. It's important to know this. Why? Because if you're missing a big detail, it could be because you weren't understanding the why. The why comes out through the talk aloud. Or maybe you need to hear that again, and that's where your question's going to come from. Or maybe you want to workshop it, and that's where you want a little bit more hand-holding through the process. And that might be, can you do it with us one more time? That would be like, I want more guided learning. I don't want to be off on my own, and I don't need you to do all of it, but I do want a little bit of guidance. So you could be in the class and say, oh, could you do it with us again? Or another question could be, could you go over it slow? And that would probably be a little bit more like the direct instruction because it's going over it all over again. I'm not really sharing this for you to know which is which. I'm sharing this with you so that you know there are options, and your questions will lead to the way in which you want your answer. So if you want more hand-holding, ask for more of your teacher. If you want less hand-holding, you almost want to like show your work and say like, was that right? You can say something like, on this next one, if you can watch me, can you see if I'm doing this right? I always like that language, like when my students really want me to like check in on with them, they want corrections, because I understand full well that there are some people that come to dance, they don't really want the corrections. They just want to like go about it, do it, and like they don't want to be called out. And then there's some, me included, like I like to know like, oh, Chrissy, just use your arm more here, or whatever the case is, whatever the correction is. So really great teaching can sometimes feel exposed because it's like we're so aware of what you're going through. So in the teacher position, like I can put myself in my students' positions so quickly, so easily, well, because I was trained to, and because I'm supposed to be able to do that. I know how uncomfortable it feels. And I also know that my students are fully capable. If they are patient, I'm 10 times more patient. And I think that's like an important thing to remember when you're selecting your teacher is you want someone that's more patient than you are, because you want to be the first person that gets frustrated, not the teacher. In my opinion, the teacher is a better teacher when they're so patient that they see your frustration and then they give you the encouragement to say, that's okay. Feel that frustration. That's okay. You've got this. Let's go over it again. Let's review it again. Let me try and figure out where you may have gotten lost. I did not get that today. I had the patience that I would with any of my students. And my teacher met me with the exact opposite of what I would actually ever meet you with. What did that do? Not only did I already feel exposed and vulnerable because of the questions that I was asking, because I know my level with this skill, but I also felt like annoyed. I know I'm not the first person to ask this question, so it felt uncomfortable. And I love feeling uncomfortable because I love the feeling of growth. And I've trained myself now to understand like, oh, when I'm growing, it's going to feel uncomfortable. And ooh, when I'm uncomfortable, that means I'm growing. So it's the comfort with that feeling that allowed me to stay with it. And it was the encouragement of myself that was able to continue. And I think that the trifecta is when you have the comfort of discomfort, when you have the patience and encouragement with yourself, and when you have the patience and encouragement from your teacher. I think that's the magic trifecta because I know it works for my students. So here are some questions that I'm going to give you so that you can feel like you're in the right spot. The first is, do you feel clearer when you leave class? The next is, do you know what to work on? Do you have something that you can take home and say, I think I understand this concept. I could review this. The next is, do you feel encouraged to return? Does this person make you feel like they are just as on board with your dance journey as you are? And the next, this one's important. Am I more curious than defeated? And we all have a different meter with this because when you're really beginning and you're brand new, and maybe you haven't learned anything in a long time that's brand new, your meter, I'm trying to think of the word, but all I can think of is like in the cartoons where it's like, whoa, full gas. You might get so overwhelmed that it might not benefit you. And you might then feel defeated. You might still feel curious, but you're going to feel more defeated. And if you are used to it, like in this case, I'm so used to learning new things that like my meter is pretty high. Like I can let that go up to the red zone and I'll be okay. So we want to make sure that we are aware of this because you know when you can take a break or you can tap out. So for example, like if she was going in on me like a little bit like meaner than she was today, or like when I did say what I said and maybe it wasn't met back with like, oh, I'm sorry, I know I was being sarcastic there. If it was like more, then I would have been like, I think I need to like take a break, like go home. So that was kind of like, I was already like in my red zone, I guess you could say. And so that like being able to say what I said and then for her reaction to be good, I would say, it made it able so that I could like continue being curious. And I am very curious. I always am. And if you know me, you know I'm very curious. I just love learning and I love understanding. And I challenge you to get curious. And if you already know, then you know. And if you don't, understand your meter, your thermometer of how much curiosity you can have so that you don't have defeat. There are so many things that are the student's responsibility. And the one big thing that I'd love to share with you is showing up. When you show up, you make the partnership available. And I laugh about this sometimes with Josh because I'll have a student that, maybe they come for however long and then maybe they move. And I always get a little sad when my students move away because I love the relationship of student-teacher so much. So when they move, it's like, oh, this relationship is over and how am I going to teach you unless online? And it's like them showing up is what allowed me to even teach them in the first place. Do you know what I'm saying? So when I'm showing up to learn, I'm now giving that teacher the experience of teaching me. And I love when my students give me the opportunity to teach them. So the more classes that they come to, the more opportunities I get to teach them and show them and bring them along on their dance journey. The next thing that is so the student's responsibility is staying open. And when you're learning, you can think you know things. You might realize that you don't know a lot of things too. And if you're like that, then I'm going to encourage you to celebrate yourself a little bit more and find out all the things that you're learning that you didn't know an hour before the class, because chances are you might be being too hard on yourself. And staying open to different ways of learning, to different styles, big time. I mean, I can't tell you how many times someone who doesn't dance contemporary, they only want to learn strut, and then I somehow magically get them to come to a contemporary class, and it just expands them in such a way that they are now taking up space in such a different way than they would. They're more grounded, and it changes their dancing, and they see it and I see it, and it's only because they were open. Learning different ways of listening to music. So sometimes people come in and they'll say, I don't know how to count. I don't count. And I'll say, okay, we're going to do beats, we're going to do lyrics, and soon I'm going to teach you how to count. And when they're open to that idea, they know that, okay, like I'm going to learn more. I'm going to learn different strategies, different tools, because every song is going to present a different reason why you would attach the music in a certain way. The next is taking feedback. Now, this is funny because it really does need to involve intention. You're going to get more feedback when your intention is you want to become a professional dancer, you want to be on a performance team, you want to perform, you want to showcase, because feedback is going to make more sense for those intentions. If your goal for dance is, I want to have fun, your feedback is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be like, hey, go wild, go have fun. You're kind of more in the driver's seat when your goal is, I want to have fun. When your goal is, I want to perfect my lines, I want to understand technique, then you're going to need some feedback. And you're going to need feedback from a pro who knows exactly where you might be giving and taking in terms of balance or energy or whatever the case is that we're working on. The next moment of big responsibility from the student is to not expect magic right away, and also to not expect magic without effort. And effort can be in the class, but it can also be in the amount of times that you show up. Remember, we talk about reps, getting in the reps. The amount of times that you do something is important because it's going to get easier and things are going to make more sense. And instead of learning baseline whenever you do it, you're going to be learning the underlying lines of whatever that skill is. So it's going to come from a very deep place when you really do more reps. So it's going to make more sense and you're going to be better at it. If you really have that effort, then you're in such a great place to learn. And like a great phrase for this that I've heard before is, a great teacher will open the door and you as the student will walk through it. And so just something to leave you with, if you're thinking about this and you just love this for dance, you can also apply this to so many different areas of your life. So for instance, good teachers exist everywhere. You can find teacher skills within mentors, coaches, bosses, managers, therapists, even relationships. There are so many opportunities to learn from a teacher if you are open to it. And when you know exactly what to look for, you'll know what is a good match for you. And you'll know, again, what is going to keep you curious and not defeated. So here are some reflection questions to guide you through understanding your learning process and understanding what you love in a teacher. The first is, who made me feel capable? The second is, when did I learn best? The third is, what environments help me grow? And the fourth is, what kind of learner do I want to be? You could also say, what kind of teacher do I want to be, if you're using this to help you be a better teacher? And the last little note is to know that no one is perfect. Even if you do find the best match, it's an equal relationship, the student-teacher relationship. So for instance, I have different relationships with all of my students. There's things that I do differently on purpose with each of my students because I know one person likes this, another person likes this, and it's very catered teaching to a purpose where it's only to help them grow. So for example, I know one of my students is like really good with tough love. They like it. Another one, that would completely destroy them if I did that. And so I would never. And then I have people that fall in between where it's like, maybe it depends on the day. Like, oh, like, hey, Chrissy, like, I don't think I want to do showcase. And it's kind of like the more we understand each other, the more we know exactly what works and what doesn't. So that's why I am going to give this teacher another chance because I know that now that I've kind of said what I needed to say, she can adjust. And if it doesn't adjust and it becomes that I'm feeling the defeat versus the curiosity, then I might find a different one. For now, though, I feel like you might always have a moment where you have to kind of explain your boundary to someone. I think that's part of growth, is understanding like that you do have a boundary and you get to express it. Once you do, if they respect it, then things should be fine. And if they don't, you might need to remind them and be like, that was that thing again, and I didn't like that. And have grace and understand that the learning process is a learning process. It's kind of like unexpected. It's like, I just want to learn how to dance. Well, learn how to dance first, and everything else will come more easily. So I hope that this was helpful for you, and I hope that you feel so encouraged on your dance journey. And if you are looking to take a class, we do have classes in person at KDF Studio in North Providence, Rhode Island, and I can't wait to meet you. If you enjoyed this and you want to share this with a friend, please do, as this is the best way to help other dancers just like you with their dance journey. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the dance floor.